Okay. Let's see. Hi, Conscious Soul. How are you? Greetings. Good to see you. Hi, Lachelle. Good to see you. Hello. Hi, everyone. We're troubleshooting over here. I'm supposed to be interviewing an awesome person. So I'm hoping to link in with him now. He's trying to get in touch with me. We're trying to make it work. But if you guys just wait just a little bit, I know it takes me a while to get everything going, but you'll definitely enjoy the show. John L. Gray is a great friend of mine, a really good person, and extremely knowledgeable. He's going to be sharing the teachings of Ma'at and all of those things and how they apply to us today, especially in this time period of what we're experiencing right now. Hi, Shan. Shan, how are you? Good to see you. Hello. Hello. Thank you, guys. Welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm trying to link Zoom in with YouTube so that you can actually see John as I interview him. So hopefully I'll be able to have those things running simultaneously. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. How are you guys doing today? I hope everybody's safe and healthy and in this crazy reality that we're living in right now, right? It's pretty crazy. Hi, Ferrari. How are you, Lamborghini? Good to see you. Good to have you guys here today. John should be on any minute. I really hope. I might have to allow John's audio to just be heard like I did my last guest that I had. If you guys saw my last video with Warlock Asylum, he was such a great guest. I was so happy to hear from him and have him on my show. So I'm going to have someone really good just like him again today that you guys will get to meet. There, you remind me of the singer Kellis. I've never heard of Kellis. I'll have to Google it. How are you, Cole? Good to see everyone. What's on everybody's mind today? Shan says, I have the same moon and rising like you, Gemini sun on the cusp of Taurus. Do you write me an email? Shan, I got an email. I haven't been able to respond because I'll tell you guys all the stuff that I'm trying to get done at the moment. I'm trying to actually get my home going and gardening and prep and getting food together and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work. So I have not been able to respond to some emails. I think I remember your email though. So we have the same, so your Gemini sun and your moon and rising, just like me. Oh, it's like just by you telling me that we have so much in common, you know? And especially now, the new moon is in Gemini, so you're being activated. So it's interesting because you're on here, you're writing to me, you're talking to me. So then that means that, Shan, that you know a lot about me, since we have those two things in common. Yeah, I think that was your email that I got. Yeah. Yeah, Colgate. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to Google Kellis, Cole. I'm going to have to Google Kellis. I don't really stay up to date with like music today. Let me see if I could Google that person right now. Kellis, let's see. I sing, but I hardly ever sing. So, let me see, Kellis. I've never seen this person before. I'm gonna have to listen to her music. Oh, I've seen her. Right. I've seen her, you know. Oh wow, I'm gonna have to listen to her music then. Yeah. What's on everyone's mind today? I mean, come on, we all have a lot going on, don't we? Most of us are home. How are you guys occupying your time? You know, how are you allowing yourself to stay grounded with all the chaos that's going on, right? It's a practice. I find that for me, one of the things that keeps me grounded and just being able to navigate through this time period is staying busy. So having a schedule, doing everything the way I would have done it had everything not changed. I find that helps. Ferrari, Lamborghini says weed. That's hilarious. See, for me, I can't with that because I lose my memory. I did it like when I was in my 20s twice, and I swear it ruined some brain cells where I forgot stuff. Where for some people, it works so well for them. I don't know how they function. That's John. Let's hope that it's linking into this video. You guys are going to love John. So let's hope that I can link him into here. And we're going to get into some really, really deep stuff. John has some very deep teachings. He has a lot of insight, especially for the things that are happening right now. So let's see if I can get John in. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. I'm still learning. Okay, manage. There we go. John. Okay, he's joining. It's telling me. I'm using Zoom to film live on YouTube. So let's see. This is my first time doing it this way. So hopefully we have some success because John has so many interesting things to share today. So it's still saying joining. I find that the computer's slow lately. I've never had a problem with my Wi-Fi being quick, and lately it's been very, very slow. I'll send text to people and they don't get the text. It's really bizarre. It's really strange. So I'm sure I'm not the only one. All right, John, it says you're in waiting. I don't know why. You should be in here already. Hold on. Let me see. So, Mia McKinley, how are you? You're working out. Good for you. I have to start doing that. I keep telling myself that every year. I'm like, I'm going to start working out. And then I don't know. I just don't like it. I mean, it's awesome. It's so healthy. I don't know why. I'm just the one person who can never be consistent with working out. I used to be a gymnast when I was younger. I used to compete in gymnastics. But once I got into my 20s, that was it. I never worked out after that. So B Production says staying busy and working out. See, another person working out. You guys are so disciplined. Keeping my mind stable. Good. Well, we're going to talk about some things today that I think will really also add to what you're doing for yourself. You know, keeping your body moving, the blood circulating, not being sedentary. I think it helps a lot with the mental faculty. So here's John again. 1 second, guys. Let's see. Admit. And okay. So there's John. He's on Zoom. So hopefully we can get him on.
Here's video.
Your camera's like, there you are. Okay, John, I'm hoping you are on YouTube. Let's see if I was successful. Maybe I'm not successful because I don't see you on my screen on YouTube. Guys, John is actually on Zoom now, so you might hear him as I'm talking to him. Mia McKinney, you look good. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Shan says, what to do when you're feeling spiritually disconnected. Good. We're going to talk about that stuff. John is here too.
Oh, wow.
We're going to break this stuff down. Paulindo, hey, how are you? Good to see you. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my Zoom, and I'm trying to make it where you guys can actually see John's face. Because to me, you learn more when you get to have that kind of contact. So, John, if you could talk a little loud so that they can hear you. That would be awesome.
How do I sound so far?
Very well. I'm going to ask them right now if they can hear you. Can you guys hear John at all? John, say something.
Hello, everybody. Just making it in.
Great. So
can you hear me okay?
If someone on the feed can tell me if you hear what John is saying, that would be wonderful. Because even if I can't, oh, good, they hear you. They hear you. Good.
All right.
So, John, I tried to connect you to, the visual with you, and I don't know why it's not. I did every step because I watched a tutorial, and I did every step. And, of course, because I'm Vera, I just can't get it right.
I'm like that, too.
Oh, my gosh, it's terrible.
I'm still having issues with my what do you call it? The Blue Jeans app. It's like I can do step by step, but it's like it's always something. Audio could go out, or video may just not want to play. It's pretty tricky.
And you're a
Gemini, such is technology.
So you should be better than me at this because you're a Gemini.
I should be. right. I should be, but it's something happening that's definitely keeping the technology from actually being my best friend.
Right. And you're working. Okay. So, let's get into some chat and stuff like that. I don't know if you can also see the YouTube feed. So if you want to also be, you can't. So I wanted you to kind of be conscious. You know what? Let me see if I can share my screen with you.
Okay.
So hopefully maybe you'll be able to see what I'm looking at. Okay. So live streaming YouTube. And then, so maybe you can see this. Tell me if you can see the YouTube feed.
Yes, I can see the feed. It's just a little small. I may have to turn my camera sideways and see what happens.
No problem.
Okay.
Good.
I can see.
Okay, so what's good
see a little bit better.
Is you'll be able to react and relate to the people that are watching the show today. So we'll make it work that way. Hey, where there's a will, there's a way. We are going to make it work.
There is a way.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, John, I was telling everyone that you and I have known each other for a number of years now. We met on the internet, right?
That's correct.
And you are one of those people, just like my friend Warlock Asylum and many other people, Veronica, so many people that I've met through the years on YouTube who somehow we connected. It's almost like we were on a journey and a path together and our souls connected in order to be like a tribe. And through the years, you and I have kind of just been there for each other, rooting each other on, right?
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
So please,
it's been like that. We've seen, the various, situations in life that would come up, and then we'd be able to have some type of clarity that would come to straighten these things out. And it's like, you'd see something, and then I would see what you're talking about. Then I'd be rooting you on, and then you'd see something that I was talking about, and vice versa. It was great. It's like being on a great team.
It was, and it was like, you meet people, and some people you just meet for a moment, and then some people you meet there's a kinship that's involved. And
True.
When I did actually John was one of my clients with astrology also, so I read his natal chart. And in his chart, there was so much that he and I had in common that we started calling one another twin. And so if you ever see me say to John on Facebook or whatever, my twin, that's the reason why. So there is definitely a kinship, and I am a twin. I have a twin sister in real life. So, but anyway, so John,
That's right.
please,
That's right.
familiarize yourself with my audience. Let them know who you are, and just whatever comes off naturally out of the spirit for you to talk about. Okay.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. Let's see. I'm here myself. I'm wondering if mine. I'm trying to see if maybe every time I talk, I can hear myself loud and clear, and it's like it's kind of hard to think when I'm hearing that. But okay, it seems like you did that. I think you muted.
Yeah, on this end, you're clear. You're very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Yes. Yeah. Now this is great. All right. Thanks, Vera.
You're welcome.
But I just wanted to just introduce myself briefly. Just have a background as a artist, and I do a lot of counseling. In terms of spiritual counseling. Primarily now on my YouTube and my sometimes I'll just go on Facebook if I have Tree of Life cosmological connection, and so I do those types of things. Let's see.
And if John, if you actually at some point, if you actually have a picture of, I love your graphics when you show the Tree of Life and you break it down, the actual visual. At some point, if you send me that, I can share it with the screen as well. Okay, so I know that you deal a lot in Ma'at, the teachings of the Egyptian cosmology and things like that, and you kind of have a way of bringing it into practical terms where we can all understand it. In fact, I know with all of the craziness that's happening right now, you are probably one of the calmest people that I know through all of this.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so the teachings that you do, I know you do a lot of things with health as well. The teachings that you do with Egypt and the cosmology and Ma'at and Tahuti and all of those things, how can you express to all of us the practicality of incorporating those concepts into modern day life so that we can have a broader perspective and be able to deal with the things that are actually currently happening right now?
Wow, that's an excellent question right there. And I'm glad that you placed it in that type of phrasing, because it's going to get us right into the heart of what we need to know about in terms of law. Okay, so the training that we've received over the course of our life, our lifetime, and of course generationally, is we've been learning about what's called the law, and so we hear the qualification, and I know you follow Santos Bonacci. Santos brought that element, that key point, to my attention, that whenever you put the word "the" in front of something that's supposed to be universal, then they're just contextualizing it and making it theirs. So when we hear about the law, we know that it's not law. Okay, so they can change the law into all other types of things, like statutes and things like that. So what I wanted to do, okay, I'm here myself again.
yeah.
Okay, so what I started getting involved in was questioning myself. Okay, what is actual? Okay, and then it's like, if can you use that for me?
Say that again.
Can you mute your mic?
Oh, is that what's going on? Okay, let me see.
I think that might be it.
Okay. sound. Hold on. Okay. All right, one moment. Oh, maybe it's the mic on this, and let me mute myself on this end. Okay, great. So
Okay,
if
let
you
me
could
see
just,
if I can see any
John,
responses here as far as the sound.
Okay. Can you hear me, John?
Okay, how do I sound, everybody?
Okay, he doesn't hear me. One second.
Oh,
Okay,
the audio
John,
is gone.
so I ended up muting the Zoom rather than YouTube. So now they should be able to hear you. So can you just begin again where you were speaking about the practicality of what it is that you're involved in as far as Ma'at, the cosmology of Egypt, and also the law and how the wording, let me just try to make this clear for everyone. So what you're doing is you're incorporating the comprehension of our law system, our legal system, and how they use words within the legal system that are not based on truth, which enables them to condemn us.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Hi, Candace. God, I knew you. Hi, guys. Okay, so so is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, but to hit it more home for everybody. I'm sure everybody's had doubts about, okay, am I doing the right thing? Especially when, everybody else is doing something that's questionable. Mm-hmm. And so, what ends up happening is, for the sincere person, for the sincere quester, I would call it, that person would start really doing some soul searching. And so trying to ask those questions. And so eventually what happens is those questions become repeated. And, the answers actually show themselves in certain situations. And over time, you start getting a kind of footing. Okay. But how it became practical, I want to get to that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So how I make it practical is actually going into what's called sacred geometry. Okay. Sacred geometry has to do with, circles, triangles, everything that has to do with measurement, geo being earth and metry being measured. And so what has happened over the years is that we've been taught something about the earth that is totally untrue. And that very foundation, think about it, the foundation that you walk on, the plane that you walk on. And we have to also incorporate the words that we use to understand how we've been kind of tricked. Whenever we say the earth plane, and everybody's heard of, certain aspects when they describe parts of the earth, when we talk about the astral plane, the earth plane, what are the other planes have we heard of? The spiritual planes, the inner planes. And so when we start putting all of those things together and start matching it with the universal measure, which the zodiac actually is involved in that too. Mm-hmm. Once we start putting these things together using the right side of our brain, we start coming up with a holistic picture about the laws, okay, the actual laws that apply to everyone and that everyone can apply. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, we talk about, okay, something for everyone. We're looking for that universal thing, that universal truth, that's irrefutable no matter what walk of life you're in. If you're participating in the dynamic of the earth realm, mm-hmm. then, all of the laws apply to you, mm-hmm. And of course, if you're born at a certain time, and a certain place, those angles and those angels that we talk about in astrology, those angles and angels that we speak of in some of the esoteric knowledge when we look at the tree of life. If you're someone who studies the tree of life in the Kabbalistic tradition, mm-hmm. Some of those things are revealed, but
it's revealed in a cryptic kind of way. So what I decided to do was to make sure that I traveled into, or not travel, but I actually looked into some of the ancient ways, that they describe the tree of life, the flower of life, the seed of life, and so forth, and started putting those principles together, principles being laws and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So once those things started coming together, I needed something to make it all come together, which comes up in the right hemisphere of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so since I'm primarily dominant right side, I'm visual. As I said earlier, I have a background in art, drawing, graphics, and so forth. So a lot of things that I look at, they're symbols, they're pictures,
Mm-hmm.
colors, anything that's visual, that carries information. Even the colors, they all have information in them. Once those things are put together, then you start seeing what law is. All of the levels of law, all of the principles of duality and neutrality. And so if we're able to look at the density, as far as going downward, in terms of elevation,
Mm-hmm.
and if we're going downward, that would be more condensation, and so these are laws or directional laws that apply to physiology, to emotions, to spiritual descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we start applying this on a tree of life schematic, this type of thing becomes an eye opener. You start waking up and starting, connecting dots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really started allowing me to take off and realize that, oh, wow, fear is nothing more than not knowing something. Fear comes to people when they don't know, where their next, bit of trouble is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you understand how principles and laws, work and how they're ordered and structured, then you start seeing and actually start making better decisions about life.
Mm-hmm.
And actually having that center of peace to come forward. And then you start actually tapping into solutions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I like I like having the opportunity to have a possibility to solve a problem, because all problems can be solved. And this is what laws reveal to us.
Okay.
All problems can be solved. They may be difficult to do, but there's always a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what has given me a great measure of peace. And meditation goes a long way, because when you go inside into the collective mind, which is unified at a certain frequency, once you go into that, then you're able to see, wow, it's not, everybody isn't a bad person, or everybody's not, this qualified, type of individual, even willfully,
Mm-hmm.
so you can see, you start having a little more compassion, for people once you start comprehending the laws and where people are in terms of development.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can actually see all of those things on the tree of life. But what I would love to do, I don't know how I can, I may have an opportunity here. I have my computer powered up.
Mm-hmm.
I may be able to show my PowerPoint, and I don't know how clear that's going to look.
Yeah, that's the thing, John, is I don't know how to connect your visual
Mm-hmm.
with YouTube, but they can hear you because
see.
I have you playing
Okay.
on Zoom while I have YouTube live on. You know,
Awesome.
so it's very frustrating
Yes.
because I really would love them to see you and also visualize
Mm-hmm.
what it is that you want to show, because you're like me. When your right brain, you need the visual in order to connect to have the cognitive comprehension of what's being conveyed.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
so, you know, I am I'm keeping up with what you're saying. And so much of when we look at Kabbalah, right? So we see Kabbalah, and I'm sure many people who are watching right now, a lot of people are saying hello to you, John, on the feed.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I can't see, the words are too small.
Yeah, that's okay. When we look at, Kabbalah, so people who are involved in it or people who are high up there in secret societies. Kennedy, love, how are you?
Absolutely.
And so because people only have seen references to Kabbalah, most of us don't really comprehend how Kabbalah even corresponds to the human condition. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So please explain to us how Kabbalah corresponds to the human condition, and why is it so practical for us to comprehend how those concepts can help us to override what is being done to humanity right now on the planet.
Yes. Okay, so before I answer that,
I'm going to mute my mic.
Okay. I might be seeing a lag here, so I was just waiting to see if there was an audio issue.
Okay,
let's see. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay.
Wait. Yeah, I can hear you, John.
All right.
You're audible. Okay.
Okay. All right. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So Kabbalah. Okay, Kabbalah is a latecomer in the scene of this science. I just wanted to bring that to the fore. And the reason why Kabbalah is one of those things that has been that's been a bit scary for people is because, when you're trying to be an organization, you have to create strata, social strata. Mm-hmm. And in that creation of social strata becomes the mysteries. Okay. And when you mystify things, we get into the areas of not knowing, and of course, not knowing brings fear. So this is what makes the latecomer of Kabbalah, somewhat scary. So this is why I went even further into history, or not even history, but I went further into the human record. I'll say it like that. Once we find out that the human record has been tampered with, just like everything has, then we realize, okay, we need to go even inside of ourselves with whatever is out here. It comes from inside, from the inner planes, if you will, once you start seeing the tree of life and how it's set up. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to make sure to say, to bring that to the fore, because I don't subscribe to the Kabbalistic tradition, because there have been, different critic things that have been placed there to kind of make certain people at a certain level stay there, and the ones that are higher, get a little bit more and a little bit more as as you go up higher.
Right. So John, sorry to interrupt. So so what you're saying is that, even in my work, when I look at religion, the reason that I was able to find what I found was because I, like you, wanted to go to the root and the missing link. I wanted to go to what came first. So when people see Kabbalah, there's a misconception. For one, there's disdain for it because they think that it's something that's satanic, which it is a perversion of the original, right? So they should beware, right? But ultimately, the true source, or the original source, was Egypt, Sumeria before that. But let's just pertain to Egypt. Let's just speak about Egypt. When you deal with the Kabbalah, that from my perspective, the people that use the Kabbalah, the Jewish traditions, they use Kabbalah only to assist themselves and not humanity. So just like you said, it's like a pyramid where the people on top are more informed than the people on the bottom. So here it is, we're born into this existence, and we don't even know the structure of this existence. And yet these people who have perverted the original source material of the tree of life are able to explain to their family members or their groups how it is that you can exist on this earth and be more proficient. But to us, they don't tell us anything, right?
Right.
So you found
and
it.
they'll give you allegories, that may tell you a little something, but it doesn't give you the full, picture in the round.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you found it, and you were able to say, wait a minute, I found the original source. I started studying it, and look at how it has changed my life, my viewpoint, and my goals. So how does that work for you, John? How can you tell us, what can you tell us to do? What are the benefits of us looking into this material? What are the benefits?
Okay, the benefits, very, very well placed. Okay, so the benefits happen when you find out that the structure of this blueprint is the same for your body, for your soul, and it's the same structure for everything that's surrounding us, which is the very earth realm itself. Okay, so I have to qualify it as the earth realm because we, contrary to popular belief, are not spinning on a sphere. Okay, and we can actually prove that to ourselves if we are able to suspend our silver platter beliefs, those things that have been handed to us. Okay, so how you can find out is just through your five senses. I mean, it's simple as that. And we have to always question, we have to question all of the things. We have to question everything, really, and be honest in your questioning, but not questioning to be like belligerent or whatever, to be defiant. But ask honestly yourself, the questions, and then start looking around and asking, just ask the cosmos itself, and you'll start seeing things. And it's a living being, just like we are. This is why I often say a macrocosm and a microcosm, is because when you have two things that are structurally the same, once you start intoning the portions of structures within yourself, there's a resonating, link that's created in the macrocosm. And so that works with anything that's even surrounding you that has certain lawful frequency resonance, or correspondences. Okay, so to answer your question even more simply, how is it more practical? We can actually find out the certain, how would you say? We can find out the certain qualities of everything that we interact with. So, for example, our computer. Okay, the qualities of our computer has a place on the tree of life. If you start from the bottom, everything that's physical, anything that's tangible is number 10. That's at the very bottom. So we're dealing with physicality, pure materialism, or materials. And so you can go up to the next one, which is 9, which has to do with things that are affected by, or things that are watery, things that are of a lunar nature. Let's see. So anything that's watery, you can think of like fruits. You think watermelon. You can think of what are some leafy greens that are very watered, watercress. Certain things like that. You could look at certain animals that have that watery type of characteristic. And so you can start applying those things, and you start seeing, okay, where does everything belong? And you can see things that are mostly aquatic, they have that watery correspondence or frequency, if you will. So we can think in terms of frequency. We can think of things in terms of energy. which are just descriptions of the same thing. You know, frequency, energy is just oscillating, or frequencies are just oscillating energies. Or you can think of thoughts as wave patterns or wave frequencies. So everything is energy, and so everything has a place. And when you're able to find it structurally on the tree, you start knowing some things. You know, you start, that inner knowing starts to wake up. And the more you go up that tree, the more knowledge and the more, you know, the more experience you get. The teacher that I had, he coined the term insperience.
Oh, insperience?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be Raun Neferamen's word. So I give him the credit.
Carlton Miller said, we have control over one thing and only one thing, and it's not our feelings or our beliefs, our understanding, so on and so on. We are in control of our minds only. The Creator has done in us. Done it in us. I love it. And then he says, it is a remnant might power we are born with. So essentially, you know how most of the religious teachings say that the power is within you, the kingdom is within you.
Yes.
That is what
Kingdom
Carlton is saying.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so is that what
you're saying? Say that last part, Vera?
Yeah, that is what Carlton was saying, that the power is within us. We're born with this power within us. So is that, how do you apply that? Okay, with today, let's fast forward to our current events that everyone is going through.
Yes.
You're a calm person.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of it is because of your teachings, a lot of the things that you teach and everything on your YouTube channel. I want to write your YouTube channel here for people to find it. His teachings are extremely in-depth and powerful. Is it your YouTube is under John L. Gray?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
John L. Gray.
John L. Gray on YouTube. And
you'll
John
find
actually gives the visual of the tree of life, and he takes you through the tree of life. He speaks about Tahuti. You know, what other things do you, when you're speaking of the tree of life, what other aspects on the tree of life are you speaking of? Because it's totally not the modern Kabbalah. It is completely the original. So when you're speaking about the tree of life, are you speaking about the one from the Anunnaki? The image that we see of them where they are showing the manipulation of the tree of life and the DNA code? Or are you speaking about something different?
Well, even the Anunnaki's rendition, it has a structure that can be overlaid, but it's like their creative version of it. And so, like anybody can find correspondences and create a unique type of thing so that it can be utilized for their purposes. And so, in a way, it's like the Anunnaki, but the way it's been revealed to me, it feels more authentic, and it's one of those things that anybody can actually apply. Okay. And so I want to make sure I'm answering your question. Am I getting?
No, you are. I also have a question for you from someone on YouTube. Jeff Taylor, they asked, can John explain who Thoth was in the pantheon of the ancient Kemet, So not the Anunnaki, but Kemet. Okay.
There we go.
Hi, Sean Hammer. How are you? Candace, Kennedy Love, Cherokee Young. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Yeah. So Jeff Taylor wants to know if you can explain Thoth and how he deals with the pantheon of ancient Kemet.
Oh, very good, Jeff. Thanks. Thanks for that question. So when we look at Thoth, Thoth, I think is a Greek description of the faculty. So the faculty of Tahuti. And so Tahuti just like all of the other pantheon gods have been anthropomorphized, and like everything that has been made into a deity, man has attached it as though it's somebody, somebody that's a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to understand that when we start dealing with the cosmology, the tree of life cosmology, all of these pantheons are derived from the sages unveiling the laws themselves. Okay, and these are principles. Okay, so Thoth or Tahuti is the principle of wisdom. It's the faculty of wisdom that we all can tune into.
Mm-hmm.
Once we do something that Vera had actually talked to my daughter about when she did a reading. She said humming is something that actually clears the mind, and that's the word of power, or the frequency of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so it's not an actual being per se,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a frequency, and it's the law of nature.
Mm-hmm.
That you can tap into, and it's the total accumulated wisdom of creation. Okay.
I like
and
that.
Once you,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, John. I like that explanation. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so once you start tapping into it, according to what level of development you're at as an individual, because everybody has to go through the levels of spiritual evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can tap into it. It's just once you tap into it, you'll see it from the lens of where you're at. Okay.
Mm.
And the more you tap into the Tahuti, the Tahuti frequency or the thought frequency, the more enlightened. Okay. And listen to the word enlightened. A lot of us think photons, bright lights, but really is releasing of the baggage that we've been weighed down with as far as misinformation.
Okay.
And so when you can see a thing or a truth directly, that's tapping into the faculty of Tahuti, and it's making you lighter because you're actually ridding yourself of the heaviness of the burden of what you thought was true. Okay, you start going into what is actual, and then then the weight of fear, is lifted off of your heart, and so your spirit, which is housed with your heart, within your heart, your spirit becomes lighter. And this goes into Ma'at, which is right underneath Tahuti. Remember the 2 and the 4? That's a Jupiterian energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that symbol, the 2 with the line there, it looks like a 2 and a 4 together.
Mm-hmm.
That's that glyph that kind of lets you know where they sit, where those frequencies of Jupiter sit on the tree of life. And so in application, once you tap into it and you continue to tap into those frequencies, you actually transform yourself. And these are the actionable things you can do on every level of the tree. And this is what makes you lighthearted, and this is what dispels fear. And this brings a sense of calm. And this is not to say that things won't be scary to you, but you can live your life knowing, what's going on. And knowledge is empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And once you can apply it, and think about it, if everybody were able to apply it, game over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the tricky part is now we have so many people that are happily indoctrinated, in whatever they've, held on to that was handed to them, that it's like if they were trying to let go of whatever, they had just to, find out, all of the programming starts to kick in, all of the fear programming starts to kick in. But the key to that is the Tahuti. And I'm glad Jeff asked about Tahuti, because that's what allowed Heru, which is the hero. Okay. See, language plays a whole part in this because we can hear everything. You know, Heru is the same faculty, and that's in the heart center. Mm-hmm. Heru is the king or queen, the one who is able to be the executor of their life, you know, as an adult, you know, functioning in the frequency of adulthood. And I look forward to going onto a platform where I can actually show this, and you guys can get a chance to try it for yourselves. You actually find out what this concept of God is and how it actually tells you that it is you, you know, and it's your higher faculty, which we all share. We just have to know it. And once we know it, we can do something. And once we do, then things change. It's the not knowing that is trying to be pushed on us. Right? Hey, don't do that. You know, don't look there because you know, it's too dangerous or whatever, or it's a no, it's taboo. But your heart knows because your soul is what they call unconditioned, or is essentially unconditioned. Okay, it's essentially. Now that doesn't mean that you haven't, you know, grabbed onto certain attachments to try to condition it to fit into whatever, you know, whatever you find yourself involved in. But when you are in your quiet space, or even when you're in your lowest of low situations, you'll find out for yourself that your soul is essentially unconditioned. You know, this is why people get their breakthroughs when they're at their lowest points. You know, and I've had a couple of low points, and you know, once I hit that low point, I just asked, you know, show me what I need to know. And I was very, you know, and it's choking me up now when I think about it, you know.
Wow. And
once I asked, then I knew. You know, I knew, and I know you know what I'm talking about here.
I do. I
know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because I can hear exhilaration and all the different expressions coming out of you as you just said that. You know, because there's a triumph. You triumph when you are able to override the program like that. You know, you're in your deepest, darkest hour, and then you find out what it all is.
Yes. That's I love how you just put that. That was, I think that made sense to everybody.
Yeah. And you know what? It's like you teach what you teach because you want people to know what that is. You know, if people can just simply tap into that, then they would know what the source is, what true source is. And I love that Carlton said that it's within us. And, you know.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yes, Carlton, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So Tahuti, yes, that's the way, because if you're able to go into the Metaphorian, the Egyptian Metaphorian, with the battle of Heru versus Set, okay, we will find that some of the same issues that we're dealing with today, where in this particular story, Heru being a male or masculine, or the son that's trying to regain the throne of his father who was slain by Set, who was his evil uncle. Once we get into the story and we find out some of the things that Set was doing, you know, to try to thwart Heru in his development into his true identity, or his divine identity, which is just knowing who you are as source, as the source being who is participating in this creation, you know, in this dream that source is, you know, allowing us to live tangibly. Okay. Once we find out, you know, that we are, you know, the source creator, then we can say, okay, I'm not really wanting this to happen this way. Let me intone, you know, these sounds. Okay. And this is what I wanted to introduce everybody to. If you're, you know, paranoid about mantras that may give power to certain people who have sung these mantras, to empower themselves. You can go into the actual tones themselves through gongs. You can go into into the tones themselves through tuning forks, and look up solfeggio. If you need to, do a Google search on solfege or solfeggio tuning forks, and you'll see the ohm frequency. You'll see all of the frequency ranges, and that will help you to tune in, to your intentions. Okay. And so the sound is everything. Once you start feeling those resonances, when you strike a tone that corresponds to your objective, then you'll actually feel that, you'll feel that presence, that energy, being here now, knowing that everything that you do here now in imagination is what you're creating. Everything that you're picturing in your mind, you're creating, and everything is being created, physiologically through the biochemistry. So that's the precipitation of all of your thoughts, which are frequencies. So if you're able to tone the high frequencies, everything above Heru, from the Herukahuti, which manages justice, which manages immunity. Ma'at, which is the law, which invokes lawfulness. You invoke the power of Seker or Sekert, which is the Saturnial energy, but Saturn has a benevolent side as well. That Saturn, it helps you with patience. It helps you with planning. It helps you with being able to have longevity, because you know the divine plan of, or the structure of life, and you're able to say, okay, I'm not going to deviate here just for a quick pleasure, ride. I'm going to stay the course, to advance myself and so forth. This is where the Shepsu or the enlightened ones have aspired and actually achieved their sagehood. This is where the only thing that matters is you becoming, your divine source, and you're able to sit in focus, in determined focus, which is why it has a hawk head. Determined focus on the goal to become all-knowing and become all unified. A unifier. You become that. And so once you recognize yourself as that, which is number one, which has been attributed to Osir, or what they call Osiris in the Greek traditions. Once you realize that tone, then you start realizing that, okay, I'm at the very pinnacle where I can bring everything together, and you have to visit it on a regular basis. And this is what brings the energy up. And so the universal sound is the Om sound. And so tap into the gongs, tap into the tuning forks, and have your intentions that are whole, are holy. That's where the language, that's where the language comes into play. Start to listen at the language and what it's saying. Things that are whole are, what's known as holy. This is what makes holy men or holy people. They're not taking a certain thing and saying, okay, this is the truth. Okay, remember that qualifier. We have to say, hey, I'm seeking truth. Okay, and what it is what it is. Okay, so that's where that's where we're headed there. And I'm glad that there's an audience here to try it out.
I love the way that you explained that. It's like, when people look at mythological stories, there's an archetypal lesson in it, so, it's not necessarily that we could say, here's Thoth, touch him, or Tahuti, touch him. No, it's the principle. And so what can we
Yes.
learn, right, from the story of Tahuti? What can we learn from it? And so I love that, because you are actually showing the practicality of us being observant of nature and patterns in life, and how we can better our lives based on that analysis, right? I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you can see why, when we're dealing with today's issues, right, why it's so difficult for everybody, you know, who may be a whistleblower, you know, when we see something that's really wrong and, you know, somebody is able to poo-poo them really quick, is because we're, you know, we haven't been exposed to the total picture of the principles of life. We're actually living in a non-principled, you know, culture right now, and so we're living in a culture of entertainment that flaunts the principles in terms of what looks flashy and so forth, but it doesn't get into the core of what it is. Yeah.
Wow.
So we can go there now.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I was, when you were speaking of the tuning forks, and I don't know if you can see this.
The bells. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there is a piece that we as human beings, our physiology is able to connect with. And so much of it comes in symbols and sounds, right? And that's why you speak of Ma'at and all of this symbology of those things, because it is through symbology that we heal and we learn, and not through cursive writing. You know, everything's been perverted, hasn't it, John? So even just sound.
Yes. And what you've just done, you brought forth something that is able to bring forth a frequency. And so because we're composed of every sound there is, you know, once we isolate the sound that we need the most, it starts to heal that area, you know, and then then you become aware of other areas that may need tuning up. And so this is how we start beginning the journey, you know, and we expose ourselves. That's really what it's about, exposure. And what we've been encouraged to do is, okay, isolate yourself. Don't look at this. Don't, you know, now it's don't get within 6 feet of people, you know. So it's like, don't expose yourself to that other person's germs that might actually help you, you know, get better. So we start learning a lot about.
It's really bizarre. One of the bizarre things that I see at this current time is, you know, I see the implementation of having people not trust one another. You know, of course, you don't trust strangers, right? That's normal. No one should trust strangers, right? But now we're at a point where this thing is making us not trust our neighbor. We can see our neighbor in the street and almost begin to have a conversation, and then we remind ourselves of the situation we're in, because we're like, well, maybe we can get it from them, but we're not sure because all the data is so convoluted. Right. And so even our family members, it's like we want to see our family members, but because everything's so convoluted, we're like, well, could we catch it? Could we not? You know, and then you almost feel like it's the AIDS generation. Remember, the AIDS generation was like, who did you sleep with before? And if you slept with that person, the people after that need to go to the doctor and get checked. And so you were suspicious. People were suspicious of people even in that way. And you can see it in this case where the suspicion is growing again. I mean, even our children cannot, it's like they're severing the ties, you know?
Yes, that's exactly what
ties.
That's exactly what the objective is. And we can know the principle or the principality, you know, that we're dealing with is about dismantling and about moving things down the tree of life. Okay.
So it's really a suppression or a suppressive movement. Okay. So everything that we're striving for is to move up on the tree of life in equilibrium and balance. This is what the law of Ma'at is. And this is how Ma'at actually is embodied in the whole geometry of the structure of the tree of life, which is our very earth realm. Okay. And so when we think in terms of the Antichrist, okay, the Antichrist, when we think of that word, most people will have this image of, the traditional Jesus, but that's the narrative, but when you start getting the tones and the frequencies activated within you, you realize what Christ is, and it's not that you have to be, beholden to it. It is in you. Christ is already there. Right. And it's the frequency that actually activates the glands and all of the tissues to produce the chrism that is lifted. Whenever you become enlightened of a certain thing that's been weighing you down, the same thing happens within the physiology. It starts to raise the kundalini, which is the energetic or the etheric force. It raises the biological, how would you say? It raises the, I'm having a blank. I know stuff like this, but okay. So it starts raising the glandular. What do glands produce?
They produce adrenals. Your adrenals.
Hormones. Yes.
Hormones.
Yes.
Hormones. Right.
Yes. And all of those things, when they're working together, produces this what they call elixir in the esoteric traditions. It creates the elixir of gold. Right. Okay, and that elixir is the fluid that goes into the what they call the hippocampus area, and then it enlivens the pituitary and the pineal and so forth, and then your cup runs over. Right. This is how you know that you're anointed, because the oil is all in that mix of energy, biologically, fluid, through fluids, energy, and just through your total awareness. All of those things are there, and so it brings to mind the scripture of Psalm 1. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in this law doth he meditate day and night, and he shall be like a tree, right? Planted by the rivers of water that brings forth his fruits in its season. And his leaf.
Is that Isaiah 65?
His leaf also.
No, I think I remember that. Is that Isaiah 65? I think so.
That's Psalm 1.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Psalm 1.
Wow.
That's the first psalm. Yeah, his leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does or she does will prosper. Right. And this is why they go on and they say the ungodly are not so. So what is it to be, godly? It means to be able to raise your frequency up to the head, which is what they call the GAD. The GAD, GAD. Okay. Which has been that's the terminology that's been used in the in some of the esoteric formats, and so when you become gadly, this means that your awareness, this is where your perceptual awareness becomes very keen. Okay. So some people have this, this awareness where they can feel things and so forth, but when you're able to put it together so that it makes sense to your mind, to your left and right hemisphere, and then you're able to actionably put into play the solutions to those problems that you're, feeling in the very beginnings of your development. So always know that you're wanting to bring that frequency up so that
your brain can become enlivened. And when it's online, when it's enlivened, it's able to sort everything out. Mm-hmm. And then there's the answer. Mm-hmm. If you have the question that's sincere from here, it's going to make sense here. And then you can explain it to everybody. And I'm going to say this before I pause. There was a time where I wanted to explain a lot of this that I'm talking about now, but I just couldn't. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh no. Let me go on to low power. Let's see. I think my battery is trying to go down. Oh, I'm going to plug up and see if I can continue here.
Okay. Yes. Let me just say hi to some of the people here. Ada Martinez. Hola, mi hermana. Está bien? Oui, sí? I'm speaking French and Spanish and English. I'm like all over the place. Hi, Keto Jahati. Jahari, how are you? Optimistically cynical. Yeah, that's wicked, right? How's everyone doing? Good to see everyone here. Yes. Santo Vinasci speaks of cerebral spinal fluid. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, Santos. Carlton, yeah, that's one of the breakthroughs right there.
Yeah. Let me see who else is here. Sean Hammer is here. Keto Johari is here. Cherokee Young. Carlton is here. Sean Hammer. I might repeat. John says hello to everyone. Yeah, John. So I love. Can you hear me, John?
I can hear you. Yeah. I just have to make sure that I'm close enough.
Oh, good.
Let me see if there's a way to make my volume right.
Enjoying the info. Hi, Maddox. How are you? Good to see everyone. Yeah, John is going in today. You know, it's like when you hear of Ma'at and you hear of ancient Egyptian cosmology and you know, teachings and Tahuti. I love the way that John connects the dots so that it could be used today in your life so that you can override the program. And we all have the possibility within ourselves. Carlton was speaking of that as well. We have the possibility within ourselves to reach spiritual heights where we actually begin to remember and know who we are. And, you know, John spoke about it was at his lowest point in his life that he found that he was able to access this. And, you know, the same with me, you know, when I thought I had lost my religion, which was my identity, so much about who Vera was, that was a horrible time for me because I felt like like a death happened. But in retrospect, when I look back, I'm like, wow, what a delicious time that was. What an enjoyable moment that pain was. Because it's when you're at your lowest that you are birthed into your Christ consciousness. And you begin to realize who you really are. And it's like, you know, people can ask you, well, all right, Vera, all right, John, you guys are past the religious indoctrination. Then tell me, what is God? And I'm sure that like me, John, it's like you do not want to spoil the revelation. So you don't even want to convey to another person what you found because you want them to go through that wonderful process for themselves so that they can now define what is. Right, John?
Real. Perfectly said.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad we speech. Because I think this is what everybody needs, and in terms of making it such that the frequency actually gets raised within this realm. Okay, when we look at what's happening, you know, with the indoctrination, it's a frequency game, and so when you have a whole body of low frequency people or people who have actually taken on the intonation of lower frequencies, this is what actually shifts the energy. if you will, to a side where, okay, there's a sense of hopelessness. Okay. But this is because of the lack of exposure, to who and what we truly are. And so once we familiarize ourselves with the sounds, with the colors, with the language, with the words, the primordial words that we form with our mouth. This is a part of the creation itself, the creation process. And this is why the chakra system, is so important to know and to learn. We can find out everything on the tree of life. We can overlay chakras. We can find out what the organs resonate at. And the work has already been done, where we can actually find out what frequency certain organs resonate at, in terms of becoming healed. We can find out, things about health. And this is where I really started awakening, because of that low point in my health. There was a time where I had moved to the Midwest. I moved up to Indiana, Merrillville, Indiana, right just south of Gary, Indiana. And I couldn't take the severe weather. It was very cold, sometimes wind chill 60 below, and so because of my dietary practice, because of a lot of my belief systems, that were, happening because I was exposing myself to, different forms of Christianity, exposing myself to different aspects of Islam, started delving into the African culture, some of the misinformation that existed there. And some of the, the egotism that goes with all of those, and so it was like all of these things, I didn't know what I was doing, but, there was a willfulness about what I was doing that actually led to the, the crash, the physical crash. I couldn't even hold a conversation. If you asked me a simple question, I was not able to answer. It was like, what did you just say? Can you repeat that? I would do that over and over. And it's like, so that was where I was recommended to become a vegan. And that was scary.
Wow.
That was scary. And, to be suggested, hey, give up the meat, or, do you want a better life? Do you want to heal yourself? It's like, yes, I do. But hey, Dr. Webb was the guy that took me on the healing path. Dr. Webb, his name was Dr. Lance Webb, the late Shechem Nefer Hetep Ra is what he went his title by, his Kemetic title. And I thank him. I thank him for, putting me on the path. Wow. And so, yeah, that was the very beginning right there for me in terms of awakening. It's just a change of diet. And so when you change your physiology, you change your frequency, everything that vibrated low, from artificial flavors to, to the sugars, to the meats and so forth, those low frequencies actually pulled my sensations to the physical level, or the physical plane. Wow. Everything that's tangible, that's what I was concerned about, And so I had no real connection with, my magnetic intuition that corresponds to the number 9 level, that's just above 10. I had no no comprehension of how the left and right hemispheres actually interpret life, the duality of life.
Wow.
I didn't know that there could be a balance between the two. Those things just didn't even matter until I started raising my frequency. And that's when stuff started mattering. I started paying attention to it, and a lot, and some, I have to admit, some things have to do with how you're coming into the world as well. Because I can say, just like, I think, Gura, you can back me up on this. People are born, with certain attachments, that show up in their star configurations on the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are actually here to do some damage. That's what they're willfully, or either willfully, coming here to do, or they've been attached to it so long that it's just a part of their, their natal personality,
right?
Natal expression.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the, we inherit things from our parents. Even in a natal chart, you can see some of the inheritances that you've gained from your family, from your parents, from your bloodline. So,
Yes.
we come into this realm with a lot of stuff. And we are a work in progress. And I'm so happy that you've been able to touch base with the very things that were able to help you to raise your consciousness and your vibration to where you're in a healed position, and I'm really proud to know you. And I can testify, having known John for a number of years, he lives the walk, he lives the talk, he walks the talk, all of those things. So I'm really happy to hear that. I saw you also do work helping people that deal with sickle cell anemia, right? And things like that. So I guess what you got from Dr. Webb or Mr. Webb, you were able to then go on a healing path where you helped other people to heal as well.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's been happening. Sometimes it gets to a point when you're trying to live life and so forth. You have these little things where you can't reach as many people, to help. And that's frustrating, and so it's my wish that I'm able to help more people, like my partner, Tamika Mosley, who's actually doing a very powerhouse, blitz on, the misinformation about health. She's actually bringing the information a lot more volume, with a lot more clarity and so forth. I encourage anybody who wants to know about everything health, which is the name of her platform, just tune in to her some of her video. Her name is Tamika Mosley, and her site is Cell Natural Healing.
Does she have a YouTube channel?
Yes, she does.
What is it?
Her YouTube. Let's see. Her YouTube. Let's see. It should be Everything Health.
Everything Health. Okay.
I also that's the SS Natural Healing. Let's see. I have to get her information straight for everybody, because that is really work that she's doing is phenomenal, and I can say I've never met such a passionate person, and I've known her years.
ssnaturalhealing.com.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is that ssnaturalhealing.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Good.
And I'm trying to actually pull it up on my computer as well.
Yeah, I have a friend whose 2 daughters actually have sickle cell.
Who does?
A friend of mine, both of her daughters have sickle cell.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's every month almost, she was in the hospital every time with both her daughters. Can you imagine? And the pain that they went through. So I did refer her to you. I hope that she, reached out, because wow, what a way to have to exist,
Yes, that's draining.
You're going in and out, John. Your sound is off. Yeah. I just wanted to touch on something for the audience. This is just something that I kind of like a guide that I kind of use when I'm teaching astrology. And John had mentioned how the Christ is us, right? And we've heard that, especially now that people are becoming more in touch with their spirituality. We hear that concept all the time. It's when you go through the process and you reach your lowest point in your life that you begin to realize, you begin to tap into your power. And once you've tapped into your power and you have been able to triumph over what should have killed you, then you realize how powerful you are and that you are Christ. And in an astrological term, I like to share that with people too, like my clients and my clients, because it's important for us to understand where the concepts have come from, the concept of Christ and all of those things. And, you know, when you're dealing with an astrological natal chart, so this is a natal chart, right? And don't pay attention to my drawing of the circle. So here's an astrological natal chart. It's 360 degrees. So when you begin to understand your own blueprint that you were born with, you're either a MacBook computer, a Microsoft computer, or a Dell computer. Just to give you an idea, you work by the program of whatever computer you are. You have a manual. This is your manual. This is your download the minute that you were born. And so what happens with that download, it is not duplicated for another 25,000 years, which should tell you how powerful you are, because like your fingerprint, no one else will carry the same frequency or vibration or pattern or manual for their computer that you have. And so, in short, when we do a circle of 360 degrees in astrology of the sky, you go to college and you get 1 degree. But when you know yourself, the blueprint, the manual that you were born with, you master 360 degrees of yourself. And you get a degree in your university, because each of these 12 pieces of the 360 degree circle is a university of 30 degrees apiece. And when you begin to go through the steps and the journey of your manual and your process in life, you begin to conquer, to overcome, to achieve, to triumph all of the things that could have destroyed you, or could have had the potential to completely make you lose it, to make you give up. You are able to receive the degree because you were able to master whatever came your way. When you look at this chart, in the middle, you see these 2 dark lines. That is the latitude and the longitude line. And what that tells the astrologer, depending on where the program is or the downloaded lines for the individual is, what that tells an astrologer is the cross. You see there's a cross there? You see this cross. This tells us the cross that you will have to bear. Whatever your manual or your program was the minute that you were born, you will carry this manual, this chart, this vibration, this download with you for the rest of your life. If you were destined for certain things, even if you were destined to be in poverty, let's say I'm an astrologer reading your chart, I can see if that's a possibility. Some people have it so strong where there's no way that they can ever come out of the condition of poverty. And so when we look at a natal chart, we realize that even if you have a chart that is so bad, You know, we have people who suffer, right? We have people that suffer in the world, children who live the worst of conditions, and they suffer. That is the cross that they must bear. Now, we may have a cross that is heavy, a cross that is difficult for us to carry and bear. Look at our ancestors, for some of us, right? They were born into a heavy cross, but they overcame it. And so when we learn the principles of mastery that John is specifically speaking about, then we understand the practicality of spiritual systems by knowledge of them, how to apply them in our lives so that we are able to bear the cross that we as Christ are here to carry. And so these 12 pieces are the 12 zodiac signs that go around the sun, not the S-O-N, but the S-U-N. And so when the Bible speaks of the S-O-N carrying his cross, being followed by the 12 disciples, do you comprehend that that is allegory for you? You carry your cross. You are Christ, for the power is within you, and so is the kingdom. And if we tap into the pineal, as John has been speaking about, we will fully see with eyes what is really the cross and the university to get our degrees from. So, John, please elaborate.
Wow, very succinctly said. It's like, wow. This is so when we, the beauty of this is we can actually apply the wheel that you were just showing and place it into position on the tree of life. Okay. So here's the beauty of this whole thing. And I remember talking to you about this when I was actually working on it. I had the intuition that said, you know what, this actually fits in with this. Okay. And so what I found when I started listening to the words that we use to describe our realm, we remember the earth plane, the celestial plane. What you were holding was the celestial plane, okay, which is above, you know, in the very blackness of what we call space. Okay, so that celestial plane is above our heads, and that's where you have your constellations. When you see those constellations come into view, that's the celestial plane, and those angles, wherever you live at, those are the angles at which the light that's coming, you know, to you when you breathe, you know, or that's energizing the air that you breathe. When you're born, that light is affected by the sun, by the moon, by Mercury, by Venus, by Jupiter, by Saturn, by Uranus, and the energy of Neptune. Okay, so those are the ruling planets, right? That rule over those constellations. Okay, and so the energy that hits the flesh, you know, or that resonates through the air, once we breathe those in, becomes our personality. And so we begin to walk in accordance to that cross that we're bearing, according to the angles, you know, according to the angels or the hierarchy or the arch, you know, the archetypes that are becoming infused into the flesh. And so that's your natal personality. Once you start coming into the knowledge of how to augment things that may not be resonating, you know, as much, you know, to get you through life. Once you get that knowledge, you can apply it then. You can start resonating then. This is how you become the responsible player in your own life. Okay. But it you know, we're in the age of I know, and Vera has that book. This is how
I'm so thankful to have met Vera, because I have a friend that was my student who I saw Vera's picture on there, and it's like, I know that person. And I clicked to friend, and I found out that she actually wrote a book called The Age of I Know. It's like, what? And so I got intrigued, and it's like, man, when I found out the works that she was able to demystify the Bible in such a way that it just validated. I can feel the resonance of the validity of how her scrutiny exposed, those who would pose as those luminaries, that actually, affect our lives. And so often these corrupt or these egocentric beings would say, okay, well, I am that. Okay. And then they would tell the people that they want to keep from being exposed to the knowledge. Okay, if you want to know about that, just come to me. I have the answers for you. And so this is religion. This is what it is. It can be your sciences. It can be your daily news. These are things that cater to belief. And so as long as you believe something and not actually know something, you're setting yourself up for fear. Okay. And so this is why there's such a regurgitation of the word, the fear of God, is because, hey, you're supposed to believe. Okay. But that belief actually puts you at a disadvantage because you don't know.
Wow.
Okay. And there's no way you can find out, and that's the sensation right there. Oh, there's no way I can know, there's, but you can know anything you want to know, really, just by resonating according to Jeff's question about thought, resonating according to the frequency of Tahuti. And you can touch on that frequency just by humming. You can hum at different octaves and get different levels of understanding or comprehension within. Okay. And eventually your sincerity will actually get your cognition, into play. And it's all of the things that have to do with moving up the tree of life. Remember, each level, level 10, level 9, 8, and so forth, they all have tree of life structure in them. Okay. If you're wanting to observe something in a intelligible manner, you can actually find out about each law or each stage or each level of consciousness and all of its correspondences as they go into emotional, or events, as they go into, as you can reference, anything really. You can just go into each one of those and you can start finding out more and more about what's happening out here. And you don't have to go on to the television. Actually, if you wanted to go and look on television, you can actually see. It's like, wait a minute, what is this that I'm looking at? It doesn't match. It doesn't correspond with, what's lawful. And soon you'll start feeling the resonance, or the discord, whatever you're encountering, you can actually feel those things because now you're resonating lawfully. Okay. Wow. And so at some point, if the bulk of us who learn this and start applying it, if the bulk of us start the application process, then the frequency in this realm would actually start to raise. And believe it or not, because we're in the age of I know, or the age of Aquarius, the very earth is helping us because it's about knowing now. It's about, we're at the beginning stages of it, but I can tell you, once you start applying, then you can speed up. You can speed up the knowing. You can wake up people just by your proximity, or you can wake people up according to the intensity of your frequency, your passion, and so forth. This is pretty amazing. The ramifications are endless. I mean, It just depends on what's in your heart. You know, once you find this out, you say, you know what, I feel empowered.
Wow.
Let me do this. You know,
that's so
and
beautiful.
then the feeling follows.
Yeah,
the feeling follows.
That is so beautiful. I am like so happy you're sharing this with my audience, because guys, this is, I mean, like I said, John lives the walk. He lives the talk. He is so calm in this space that all of us are in. And I know some people write me and they're like, I just feel anxious and afraid and this and that. You will not. When you learn to carry your cross and you learn to apply the principles that will attach itself to the different parts within your physiology, and it will begin to heal those parts of yourselves to make you a person that vibrates in a frequency where fear can no longer exist. And fear only exists in belief. And I love my friend Saba. How are you? I miss you. Saba says religion cannot exist without fear. You see, and Saba's been through this stuff too, you know? And Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And it's just amazing how, you know, once you've gone through these steps that you're speaking about, John, and these processes and these applications, then nothing that's going on can affect you or penetrate your auric field. And imagine if we all did this healing process that John is speaking about. Come on, we could overthrow the regime that is attempting to take us over.
Yeah, the de facto. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, it's John, amazing because,
I'm sorry,
you know,
Saba asked if you have a YouTube page. So I'm just going to write your YouTube page for everyone again. So John's YouTube page is John L. Gray. So you'll love his teachings. You're welcome, Saba. So I'm sorry.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I appreciate you guys. Man, this is great. Yeah. I feel, I don't know, how does everybody feel right now? I mean, you feel empowered.
So let's see. Everyone, John asked, how does everyone feel right now? Cherokee Young, she said, my biggest fear is leaving this planet without fulfilling my soul's mission for this lifetime. Wow. Don't worry. Actually, Cherokee is taking my Astrology 101 course, and you're going to know stuff. You're going to get in touch with that, okay? Yes, right, John?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Vera's helped me so much. I mean, she's been like the balance. She's the confirmation. I've learned from my angle of approach to truth. I mean, it's like, you know, it's just she's the fulcrum. I mean, it's like when we put our ideas together, and it's like our approaches together just make sense, and it's like, wow, this is confirmation. You know, this is confirmation.
That's the truth, John, because I feel like, you know, we both in our endeavors, we had an honest approach to it, and our intention is like part, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
I was taught by one of the Kemetic priestesses, and I can tell you her name. Her name is Sert Reshiwa Heterta. She told me when I was learning about the tree of life and learning some of the basic essentials of the Kemetic cosmology, she told me this, and, you know, because I was asking her the question, it's like, well, is it possible? You know, is it possible to achieve enlightenment? And she told me, she said, sincerity goes a long way. And from there, that's when I felt the confidence right there. It's like, I know how I feel about, you know, gaining the consciousness that's going to help everybody, you know. And it's like, if I can just learn the solution to the problems, you know, this would be, you know, this would change a lot of things in the world. And so sincerity went a long way so far, and I can't wait to see how far it can go now, thanks to you
and you
having me on.
You too. I mean, John, you're just, and I know you don't like to hear nice things about yourself, but you're just such a good soul, you know, and highly intelligent, and you walk the walk. And someone here, let me see, Maddox says this discussion is excellent. Everyone's enjoying what you're sharing with them, John. Kennedy Love, she says, you both are so awesome. I am so empowered. That's what John wants. He wants to empower you. And Mighty D says, I'm dabbling with breathing circuits. Could you expand on that? And before you talk about that, Jeff says, I want to walk the talk. I love that. That's intention. Vera, do you have Stella? So I'll look at that question in a minute. But what was the one that someone said, I'm dabbling with breathing circuits? Could you expand on that, John?
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. That means you've actually taken a look at some of the videos. Breathing circuits. Yes. That's one of the things that I found out in my quest to learn about, hey, what are we living in? Okay. So as we've covered in the astrology, we know that all of the planets have a frequency, right? And according to the tree of life, the structure of the tree of life that has levels, there are also resonances, okay, that you can find in terms of color, in terms of tone, you know, or sound. There are C notes, you know, at various levels. There are G notes, and then there's a what is that? C notes, G note, and then there's, I forget the middle. I'm just going. I have to have it in front of me in order to be able to flow. But when you're able to get those various frequencies of those notes, then you're able to know, okay, how many breaths, okay? Because just as there's an orbital circuit, there's a going and a coming, okay? Just like my hand is moving forward, that would be like your in-breath. And then there's a moving away, which is the exhale, okay? So that's how the macrocosm actually breathes, you know? That's how it moves the air around, moves the energies around. How we interface with those frequencies, we breathe in and out like so. And so those are frequencies, you know, how many times, how many beats, you know, each one of those has. And when we're synchronizing those, and we know, okay, at the earth level, you have, say, a count of 3, you know, like in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. That's the energy level on the tree of life. And that's going to correspond to your the level of consciousness that you're tapping into. And especially if you have the intonation of that particular level. So same thing all the way up the tree. And there's numbers that are assigned. And I think you may have seen one of my presentations where I have the exact numbers according to how the yogis express in their orbital descriptions of the yugas. Okay, so once you get into the yugas, you're able to see the actual number, 90, you know, the numbers, you know, that correspond to those levels. And so let me see if I'm actually getting to the point here, because I can feel myself starting to ramble. I want to answer your question with clarity.
John, you did really well. You answered it, so that's great. I'm sure by his question, he's familiar with a lot of what you're talking about. He's probably even watched your show, your YouTube channel. So Phil, I guess by that, by what you're saying too, it's important for people to get in touch with how the breathing mechanism in order to also bring themselves. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And so in order to fully understand works, where we have to know some of the fundamentals of just the word itself, spirituality and spirit. And so when we understand that spirit is the sublimated water, because we live in a water world, and separation of waters from the waters actually deals with the actual, the tangible water that we're familiar with, all the way to waters that we're not even familiar with, that are said to be so dense that you can't even penetrate some of the water because it's so far down in the realm. Okay, so however high you go, the molecular structure of water becomes more diffused, if you will. And so this diffusion still carries the energy and the information. So the further diffused the air is, the higher the information content, in the atmosphere. And so if you're able to breathe at a slower rate but higher volume, that's more information that's being imbued into your cells, since we're mostly water anyway, right? And so that happens, that happens when you're breathing in and out. So that's just spirituality 101, if you will, in terms of the mechanics of it. Now, how it starts to become something that you experience, cognitively, visually, in your imagination, that has to do with how you're approaching it. What types of information you have active in your consciousness, that would allow you to see it in a either distorted way or in a more balanced way. So the intention. So this is where we come into intention. So if your intention is to be balanced, it's going to go there. And you have to see it visually, what balance looks like. The ancient Egyptians used the scales. That's Ma'at.
Wow. So
just see those scales. If you need a picture, because that's our primary mode of actually directing our thoughts. If we're able to use that picture and use other things that relate to balance. If you have a sound that you have that relates to balance, use that sound.
Okay.
If you have a word, use that, So that's a part of it. I just hope I'm getting that.
Yeah, we have the questions are coming, John. Kennedy Love asks, can you ask him if he knows anything about the Egyptian postures of power?
Postures of power. I'm not familiar with those. Okay. I'm sure that that's something they have mastered.
Okay. And Cherokee asked, that was a good question. I'm going to have to Google that, Sonia. And Cherokee asked, is Mahat zodiac sign Libra? That was a great question.
Oh, wow. She's on it.
Yeah.
She's on it. And I have the PowerPoint presentation that actually talks about that. Yes, because the Libra scales, you see that there's like the arch, and then the line underneath it. That's the balance.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes. Yes.
And let's
absolutely
see.
Good question.
We have another good question. Sava asks, that's my son. Okay. Sava asked the question, what's a practical technique process for trust and belief in oneself? Hi, baby. I'm on live.
Okay. Practical.
Okay, everything's good?
Belief in oneself. If you can just be.
You love me?
That's huge. And when I was smaller as a child, I was always afraid of the dark. Okay. And this is how I learned that I was able to trust myself in terms of, if I'm able to, settle myself down
is to actually be by myself in the dark. Okay, because when we think about that, sitting in the, you start understanding that, okay, this is how I began. This is the beginning of life right here in this type of state. It was just me, and that's really where Amen is, that the hidden aspect. That if you're asking who's listening or who's witnessing everything, every thought that you have, every action, every word that you've said, it's that faculty that everyone shares. It's that stillness, and it's recording right now. Mm-hmm. And so, how you can know that you can trust yourself, or that you can. I'm gonna see if I can read that. Let's see. Can you repeat that one, Vera?
Yeah. Yes. Hold on. Let me switch back to it. Yeah. So Sava asked, what's a practical technique process for trust and belief in oneself?
Okay. Yes. There we go. Mm-hmm. Okay. So sitting in the dark with you and making sure that you're still and you can actually hear the humming and everything in your ears. Just meditating on who's listening, who's watching, being still. That practice right there can get you there quickly. Mm-hmm. If you're not afraid of, whatever thought that goes through, because we don't own any of the thoughts that come across our mind. We only can grab them and hold them, and observe them. We can also let them go. And so first thing that, okay, I'm thinking certain things that aren't, trustworthy, or, giving myself self-confidence or that trust that I need, I can actually realize that, hey, these thoughts really aren't mine. Mm-hmm. They're just frequencies that are, of course, through either your own natal personality. You can still have the choice of accepting or rejecting, or just observing and just let them float by. Mm-hmm. This is done in the dark because the dark is like the unknown. If you're afraid of a boogeyman being in the dark, just know that it's just you, it's only you. So once you get over, that fear of being, or that notion of being separate entity, and then you're on your way. Feel your thoughts. Use the hum.
Okay. Hi, John. That was great. That was great. Yeah. What is that? Be still, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff asked, Vera, do you have Zelle? I didn't know what Zelle was, so I just Googled it. I'm gonna try to get it. I didn't know. I've never heard of it, so I'm gonna try to get it. I do have another thing. I have Venmo and Cash App. Oh, hold on. Let me see. My son just called me, so that was my son that called me. He's gonna be 23, and he just called. He's with his girlfriend, and he's like, I just called to say I love you. So that just touched my heart. I had to answer when your child calls you, and I'm a Cancer rising. That's the mother of the zodiac. I have to answer. So sorry if it gave feedback, John.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. Yeah. You're actually showing the embodiment of that frequency. It's great to see.
Yeah, I can't help myself. It's like my babies are like, I want to baby the whole world. Yeah, so I'm gonna, Jeff, thank you so much for asking. I'm gonna put, and just know whatever, like, whatever like donations people send me right now, I'm using it to feed, like buy food for people. There's a lot of people that can't work now, you know, they can't work. They don't have access to money right now. So I'm trying to like buy canned foods, buy rice, buy anything, and just like drop it off in certain places or the food pantries. You guys try to do that yourself, because people are going to need your help as we move on through this process. And just really quickly, when you know, you don't fear, right? And so I just put my Cash App up there. So if anyone donates, just know it's going to go to a good cause. Okay. Just know that you don't fear when you know things and being aware of things. And I just really want to send out, just to let everyone know, prepare yourself for every scenario. You know, as a Cancer rising mother, a mother always looks at every scenario that could happen in their child's life. And what a mother does is tries to create circumstances that can circumvent those possibilities.
Yeah.
And so I say that to you to say, be mother to yourself. Be mother to the people around you. Buy food for your home and water. Buy enough in case someone else needs it, where you have to open up and be mother to them and feed them if they're hungry. We have the possibility that what's happening right now is going to come back in the fall. And as an astrologer, I've been telling people for years, be prepared for 2020 through 2024. And even now, if they say things are going back to normal, just realize that there's a possibility that the fall, it's going to come back worse. And there could be a case where they say to you, you have one day to leave your house and get food. And one day to go get food is not enough time, because if that one day is everybody going to get food, then those shelves are going to be empty. And so I say that to say, get what you can now. Get your water. Have enough in your house in case they say you can't leave it. You will need to take care of yourself. You'll need to be able to take care of other people. Buy your candles, because you have to think of everything. If the lights go out, think of everything. And that's not to scare you, because if we do not think about stuff before it happens, then the fear will be there ultimately. And so when the day arises, then you are faced with shock. So why not get yourself scared or whatever right now, for lack of a better word, and just be ready just in case, because, even if our leaders are doing the best that they can, they're still human. And look at what happened with Katrina. They didn't even have sanitary conditions for people to be in, and so we have to learn how to prepare and depend on our own Christ-like abilities. We know, okay? We need to care for ourselves, our family, and those who need it. Don't ever deny anyone who needs something from you. And so if you are preparing now, prepare for yourself and to share with others. So I just said that to say, and any contributions goes to help people. We have to look ahead and it may be nothing. Maybe everything will be great, but maybe not, right? So someone said, Vera, what are we to expect in the coming summer? This coming summer? For me, when I look at the planets and everything, right now we have a new moon in Gemini. Gemini is the sign that rules the lungs, right? So the sun right now in Gemini will begin to aspect the planet that deals with disease. And so when it begins to do that in astrology, that tells an astrologer something, that there will be a theme, okay? And so the lungs, Gemini, aspecting a planet of disease, tells us that there will be a continued conversation or experience of this stuff. So this summer, it may ease up a bit, and we may feel we can go back out and do everything. And I'm not even speaking about if it's contagious or not. Okay, I'm not even talking about that stuff. That's up to each of us individually to discern for ourselves. But what I'm saying is that the astrological, the cosmological downloads that are coming down here speak that this situation is not just going to end overnight. Okay? And 2021, I wrote an exposition about 2021 astrologically, being specifically February and March. In astrology, that we have dates when planets do certain things, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen that moment. What the planets do is they trigger energetic events. So the trigger begins in February of a revolution. And that revolution could be the government taking away our power, or the people saying we're not going to take it anymore. And that's how astrology works. You see, there are always multiple ways that these energies can be expressed. And so when I see revolution, I see either it's you and me, or it's them that have the yoke on our neck. And so we have a choice as to whether we are going to continue to give our power away, or are we not? And so all of these questions are now coming up. All of these tensions. There is war in heaven. You know, Revelation 12, there's war in heaven. And what is above is below. So get your food together. The canned beans, the expiration date is 2025. Other foods you're going to find 2021, 2020, 2022, but beans last long with the thing. And I'm going to show you guys videos on making your food last even longer. I just feel like I feel urged and moved as mother to give you guys that information on doing this for yourself. So when you go to the store, if you already have toilet paper, buy 2 more. Rice lasts a long time. Get yourself some rice. Keep getting yourself rice every time you go to the store, even if you have it in your house. Have a moving pantry, so you're eating you're buying the things that you eat. So you're able to eat it, and then if you ate a can, let me go replace it by 2 more cans. Right. John, do you have something to say?
Yes, I was about to make what you just said about revolution. Okay, either it's going to be us, or it's going to be some governing body putting yokes on our necks. Okay, the only way that can happen, as far as a governing body putting yokes on your neck, is if you're not exposing yourself to knowledge. And knowledge are things that are not around knowledge you can't put into action. Okay, so you can't raise your frequency, with being ignorant, or being nonchalant or lackadaisical about who you are, what your soul is about. There's been many wars in the past, according to the wheel itself, and we've overcome, in various kinds of ways. Now that we have an opportunity to know, okay, we can overcome in a pretty, what would be considered as a miraculous way. And I've noticed that, and I want to make sure to bring this to the fore, that anytime you have a movement that's to overrun a people, they have to make it so that the mind is made compliant and unresponsive, or irresponsible. Okay, so
the opposite has to happen in our lives. You know, if we have a vitality, or if we have a purpose that we wish to fulfill, it's of utmost importance that we learn more about ourselves, more about our macrocosm, and how to link those two together. The more we do this, the more we'll find that we're in situations that, I mean, and this happened the other day. I was looking at something as so subtle as being in the right place in traffic, you know, where, you know, various vehicles were closing in, and I was about to get stuck in traffic, but it just happened that I was in the proper lane and the proper vehicle did the right thing, and I was able to move in such a way that I wasn't stuck in traffic, you know. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and just people start to clot up in the traffic, and it's like, wow, you know. But something as subtle as that, you'll start noticing, okay. And if it can happen at that level, just imagine when you get more people involved with that type of resonance, okay. And so it's really about finding out about those higher resonant fields, because we're pretty familiar with, we're familiar with every, you know, dealing with the brain, you know, 7 and 8 on the tree of life, 9 and 10. We're very familiar with those, but are we familiar with the higher, you know, the hierarchy, if you will, the archangels? Are we familiar with those higher frequencies? Okay. And I think that as long as we can keep that as a goal, you know, to resonate the higher frequencies, we can actually mitigate a lot of what's going to happen, you know, by what the conversation is going on. We can mitigate a lot of those things. And, you know, if we have a choice, that means we can, you know, as people carrying our own cross, we have a choice. Hey, let's choose the highest frequency that we can work with.
That's right.
You know, on a regular basis. I mean, make it a daily thing, because you could skip a day and you could feel a whole different, you know, type of way if you're just, you know, if you're just trying it, you know. And so let's go beyond trying, you know, let's set a space time to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see what happens, you know. I'm going to do this with the proper intent.
Yeah. And that's so what I found too, John, when, you know, like you and I, we went through this process of leaving religion, and then we were kind of pulled, you know, our consciousnesses kept evolving and picking up new data and new belief systems. And then we realized why we were in other belief systems after we left religion. And it was because there was a process that we needed to go through, and an initiation, so that we could comprehend the evolution of our soul, of a soul, right? And so that enables, that kind of enables the possibility for us to comprehend the mind, body, and spirit unification, right? It's like our body is the physical, we have to feed it. We have to make sure that we are aware of what can be done to our bodies, right? And at the same time, we practice the spiritual knowledge that you are giving and teaching that helps us to be able to integrate all 3 of those systems within ourselves, and then also be able to apply the principles. And so how miraculous is that when all those 3 things are given the attention and the remedy that it needs in order for us to function and be able to move around in this space that we find ourselves in, especially right now. You know, like you're so calm. You're so calm. You know. Let me see. Someone wrote, Sean Hammer said canned chicken at Costco. 12-ounce cans are less than $10. Good, Sean, that's right. I remember you got it going on. You have like 10 acres of land. You're lucky. That's what I say.
Oh,
You know, whether you're living in the city or you have land, you have the possibility to make things happen for yourself. If you're living in the city, just think that things could be harder for you. So that means get more food, get more water, you know, be prepared, take care of the physical. And at the same time that you are being aware that you live on planet Earth and that the body needs food and nurturants and water, and so do your children and those who you are responsible for, then at the same time, apply the spiritual food for yourself so that even if that is gone, you are still able to function and to be rational and sane and healthy, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. Cherokee said, can you do a YouTube on what to prep? Absolutely. And Sean, if you have any ideas to share with me, I do plan to make a couple of videos on prepping. So yeah, definitely, Cherokee, that's a great question. Some of the things that I've been able to prep, some of the things that I've done myself, I can have for 10 to 15 years. So the food that I'm eating that I know is going to expire first, I eat that first. And then when, let's say, if I can't get food at the stores, I have food that can last longer on the shelves, that I can save that till, you know, to the end. You know what I mean? So Sava said, we are not going back to how things used to be, and that's a good thing. We get to start over and redefine how we want to be treated from now on. We can no longer allow ourselves to be abused. Bravo. Bravo. That's it. Exactly. We have a decision to make. You know, I was like, you know, learn from the past. Learn from the Great Depression. Many of them relied on government for things as well. And they ended up losing their money in the bank. They ended up not having food. They were on bread lines. And so do you know that after the Great Depression, there was this huge movement to self-sustainability? People started canning their foods. They started dry canning their foods. They started preserving their foods. And they started to have a working pantry in their house after the Great Depression because they learned not to be caught out there again. But when we came along, the generations after them, we forgot because everything became so convenient. You could order your food on Amazon, right? You don't even have to make clothes anymore. When I was a kid, if we got a hole in our pants, my mother patched it. She didn't throw the pants away. Today, we just throw it away because someone's making it and we're going to order it. And if we needed to sew something, we don't even know how to do it because it just comes so easily. But now, maybe like after the Great Depression, this is going to teach us self-sovereignty, how to rely on ourselves and get those skills back, how to be mother, how to be father, how to be every sign on the zodiac wheel so that we find ma'at or balance.
Well said. Very well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, John, I know I don't want to keep you on long. You know, I know you came from work. John came from work and we just on a whim last night, right? We decided to do this, right? So Sean said, get out of the cities. Yeah. And Maddox, I'm so glad you're here too. Sean Hammer, World War II is the only thing that got us out of the Depression. Yeah, isn't that funny, right? A war had to get us out. So John, anything else you want to share? Elaborate a little bit before we close off. I'm going to put your channel on again. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Yes. The one here to keep in mind.
Wait, hold on. You're breaking up. 1 second. Let me see if I mute my microphone. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, the main thing I want us to keep in mind is that we're constantly trying to garner the help of
the macrocosm, okay, because it in and of itself in totality is the living being, okay. It's the greater living being that's tangible through the elements, through the earth, the wind, the fire, the water, okay. So all of these are intelligences, okay. And know that just like you have the water, the fire that's in you that you use to, to have the passion, the fire for passion, or the earth as far as your physical, the powers that you have physically, to do, whether you're athletic or whether you have longevity, or the water that you have that allows you to, have great circulation physically, or have a good personality in terms of being motherly. All of those elements, we have to realize that this is given to us, and it's constantly being, when we breathe in and we breathe out, it's being shared. Okay. And so in that sharing, there's that awareness that there is a living, there is a living consciousness that can be augmented by our focus. It can be augmented so that our movements can become more lawful. And this is how we can deal with the unlawful legalities that try to overrun people. Okay, because we know legal is not law. Those are just made up things to get what they want. Right. We have to realize that, okay, the earth has a lawful pattern. And as long as
I hear feedback. Is that your side or my side? I hear feedback. Okay, I think it just stopped. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So if
go ahead.
So if we're constantly mindful of alignment, okay, no matter what's going on in terms of the conversation, it actually be we can actually be in on the conversation, and that's how the fear can be dispelled. And we know that if you're when you're engulfed in fear, your decision making is way off. Okay, so we have to become more familiar with these frequencies, become more familiar with the conversations. That's why I'm glad that Vera is on it with her explanation of the cosmological wheel and what's going on. And so when we tap into higher, into the macrocosmic forces consciously, we actually augment our consciousness into those realms. And so it's almost like you're looking at levels of it. And this is what takes away the down in the lower and the more.
Yeah, it's breaking up again. Yeah, it's breaking up again. Okay.
Okay, no problem. I can repeat it.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay, so the more alignment we can get, and the more mindful we can become, as far as knowing that there's a higher consciousness that we are tapping into. We're actually merging our consciousness with that of the whole earth. And this is how you become holy, by the way. The wholeness of creation is what we're tapping into. This is why you don't see many holy men and holy women, because we forgot that, hey, there is a whole thing that we're living in.
Wow.
We need to be more aware and being still, as Sava is brought forward, being still in the darkness, because that's what most of this realm is made of, is the dark. Every luminary actually casts light on what's happening, what's being created in the dark. Some of it's beautiful, most of it's beautiful, actually. Some of it's not. And so we have to be mindful of the combination that create beauty. you know, if that's what we want in our world. And that's where, if that's what our intentions are, we can create that.
Wow.
You know, in darkness of our mind.
Wow.
And that's what I wanted to bring to the fore, is always connect to the macrocosm, you know, and that which runs it, because that's the ultimate, you know, that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
So it's all in state.
Wow.
Just, and be patient with yourself, because we all do have that.
That was so beautiful, John. That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love when what people do is just so inspirational to others. So thank you. You not only show us a problem, but you show us the possibility of solution. So the
Absolutely.
more that we apply, you know, they say, you know, what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge applied. So when we gain the knowledge and then we apply the knowledge, that's how we get wisdom. And so we can hear a lot of wisdom coming out of you. And I thank you so, so much. Anyone have any departing words to say goodbye to John? Any last questions anyone has? You have a chance. You have 10 minutes to put it out there, and I'll mention it, and John will converse back. Okay, so you have 10 minutes to put it out there. If anyone is looking to join the astrology class, I have another one starting in 2 weeks. I'm doing 3 right now, 3 beginners and 2 second level. So I'm kind of tired. So I'll be resting a bit and starting in 2 weeks. So I've had a lot of people write me. I've not been able to write back because I've been really busy, but I see your messages and I will send you information on astro classes and also natal reading. So whoever wrote me about having a natal chart reading, I'll get to you. I promise. I'm not ignoring you. So Carlton Miller says, discernment, we are there. We are here. However, Deuteronomy 7:25-26, is that with the gods of wood and stone or something? I think I remember that scripture. Is that what that is, Carlton? Can you like copy paste that scripture there? I'll read it out loud to everyone. I haven't read the Bible in, I think, 4 years, but I remember, because I mean, I was a Jehovah's Witness and I was a Hebrew Israelite. So I was like in there. So I remember a lot of it. So yeah.
Super scholarly.
I
said super scholarly.
No. No. Well, in indoctrination, yeah. But I mean, what's wonderful is that as we go through our journey and we're picking up the different details from the different beliefs, that systems that we've been to. And this is why when people join a religion after I share what I share, sometimes people feel they have to apologize. And I'm like, no, this is your process. And then in my mind, I'm like, they'll leave it. I just know that this is part of their way of having the full education on what is. Yeah. And so, but even after that, you leave through the process of religion. And even though I don't read the Bible, I still see where if people were able to have a holistic, they were holy, like you just said, John. When they read scripture, they'll see the higher teachings that John is speaking about, that astrology is speaking about, that we were not given access to. Sean wrote, Alan Dershowitz, Trump's attorney, said if the vaccines are made mandatory, you will not be able to refuse it. If you do, he said the government has the right to strip you down and forcibly inject you. Yeah, and I also heard Trump say the same thing. Trump said he's going to bring the military into the United States and they will give the injections to people. So, you know, we talked about this, right? And Sava mentions it. What are we going to tolerate? What are we not going to tolerate? It's all up to us. They not only live in the world that we've given them power to rule over us. You know, can you imagine the very people who rule over us make the decision as to whether they get a raise? Seriously?
That's true.
Come on, like seriously, were we that naive? And so we have a decision to make in many ways. You know, people talk about socialism, how socialism is wrong, but when you give a tax cut to the rich, that's socialism, right? When people, there's so many things that are so contradictory and convoluted in our space where there'll be a need to redefine what is going to be agreeable to the masses rather than just a small percentage. And so we have a lot of decisions to make as this generation that's living on this planet right now. We were born here with the crosses we must bear at this time for a reason. We all met up here at this time for a reason. This was destined for our souls, right, John?
That's very correct. Yeah. That's very correct. And I definitely, something else came to me as far as how we can actually direct our journey. We can use our imagination on how we want this to play out, because it is an inside out type of game. Okay. You know, life is an inside out thing. Inside meaning it's mental, you know, it's spiritual, you know, the breathing in and then breathing out. So if we have that kind of power, okay, and we're aware of it and we apply it, you know, we can actually say to ourselves, we can be creative, okay? All of the things that they're putting out in the airwaves as far as what they're going to do, we can actually put into the frequency, you know, what's going to happen is. You see, that's how powerful we are.
Wow.
This is another aspect that brings it up a notch. And I wish I could have had that to be the first thing, but I think we're getting to see the levels at which we can actually apply this knowledge. Okay. We can actually say, we want this to look like this. You know, if the conversation in heaven is like this, what's the possibility of creating a conversation, you know, on earth that matches the best outcome that this conversation is talking about? Okay. That's how we can work this thing, you know? And so it's gonna take creativity on our part and, you know, type of way that we can access, you know, and go on YouTube, you know, access all of the tone, the planetary tones, and just go in with your frequency, you know, go in with your intention rather, and match the frequency and say, hey, I want this to happen this way. Since the conversation is saying this, I want this to be the way it, you know, the way we can mitigate it.
And there are more of us. There are more of us than there are of them. There are power in numbers. And this is why even in the Bible, the Jesus of the Bible said, wherever two or more are gathered, there shall I be. Because there's power in the multitude of intention. And so we all have a choice. So we either participate or we don't. And if we do not participate, then we are also part of the problem. And so we have the power of intention. And this is one of the reasons our friend Greg Badaluco's on also, John. He said, right on, John. Yeah. So, you know, we have part of what makes them seem more powerful than the masses of 99% is the fact that we've been divided into so many different isms and schisms, you know, different countries, different races, different religions, different political parties. The more that they can fracture the gathering together of two or more, the better it is for them to succeed. And so when we begin to see past the strategy of divide and conquer, then I think we'll be able to apply the spiritual side and that physical comprehension and be able to change the trajectory through our intention and how we say it's going to turn out. You know, Sometimes spiritual people are like, oh, you just think of the light. Think of the light. It's not just thinking of the light. It's mind, body, and spirit.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's like the difference between someone who is hope, you know, that they can do kung fu, someone who has actually gone through gone through the fundament of it. You know? And so this is why this broadcast is so important. You know, we can learn the fundamentals of it, and then we can use our own creativity and how we apply it.
Absolutely.
And the variety. I mean, think about it. If it's a bunch of us applying it in our own variety, that cannot be countered very well. You know, so that's just another possibility right there. You know, we have to go through.
And Greg said, and as John said, sincerity goes a long way. That's the truth. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, well, John, I want to thank you so much for being on today. This video will stay on YouTube, guys. Usually I take my live feeds off, but these two, the last one and this one, I'm not. I have a gentleman that will also be on the show in the next week, and he's going to blow your mind just like the last two. These are kin. Okay, you guys are gonna learn so much from John, from Warlock, and from this next gentleman that I'm gonna have on next time. He's gonna blow your mind. Okay, and so I look forward. I'm excited for that. Again, I'll be sharing tutorials on saving food, how to preserve it, getting yourself ready, what kind of things I'm doing. I want you guys to be good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cherokee, I promise I will do that. John, we got to have you on again. Okay. Everyone loves you.
Absolutely. I look forward to it, and I'll have more to show.
Good. And we'll try to get you on the screen next time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Joe. Yes.
Lachelle says, thank you, John and Vera. Much love. Much love. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Bye, John.
Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye, Saba. Bye, Greg. Bye. Bye, Cherokee. Bye, Carlton. Bye, Sonia. Bye, Rocky. Bye, Jeff. My eyes are going bad too. Bye, Greg. Bye, everyone. Love you guys. Maddox, see you later. Sean, see you later. Saba, be safe, everyone, okay? Please be safe. Bye.
Safe. Bye.